You kids can't live comfortably on $20 an hour. You have to be overspending. We got to break this down very quickly to give people perspective into the Gen Z's lives. If you make $20 an hour in 2024, that is $40,000 a year. After taxes, that is $2,750. The average one-bedroom apartment and utility is going to run you $2,000. You cannot do that making $20 an hour, so you're going to have to rent with a roommate for about $1,200, and that's being conservative. $500 a month for groceries, which is less than $150 a week. $300 for a student loan payment, which is below average. $300 for a car payment, which is below average. $150 for car insurance, $150 for gas, $100 for personal care, $50 for a cell phone is $2,750. That is paycheck to paycheck, leaving you with nothing. Nothing for savings, investments, the big one, health insurance, because I'm assuming they're under 26 years old, and zero fun. Now, if they were to make $30 an hour in 2024, that's $60,000 a year. That's $3,900 after taxes. Maybe they decide to get their own place for $2,000 and everything else stays the same. They're left with $350 a month, which is essentially still paycheck to paycheck. This is the cost of living in America in 2024. The idea of $20 an hour, even for me when I graduated high school, was a ton of money. Now, $20 to $30 is minimum wage.
People are calling it entitled to want to live alone, and I genuinely don't understand that, because we're not talking about a penthouse. Like, we're literally just talking about a one-bedroom apartment where we don't have to coordinate with multiple people and we can just have our own space. Like, that used to be called just being an adult, and the fact that working full-time doesn't even guarantee that anymore is the actual issue.
Currently living a Monday that I can't even fathom is real. I started off by going to the vet for my dog, $327 for his second infection of this month. Okay, get home, need to check something on the pills he takes, so I open up his food bin. No food in the bin. $60 bag of dog food incoming, perfect. Get in the car, gas light turns on. Time to refuel. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then I thought it was over. I said, it's over, it's done. That's all that can happen to me. No, I get a notification from State Farm. Your car insurance is due. Actually, it's past due, by the way. Yes, these are tears in my eyes right now. Okay. Oh, I want to be an adult. I want to be an adult. This date might kill me. It might.
Hey YouTube, a lot of people online have been talking about how it feels like no matter how hard you work, staying financially stable is becoming harder and harder for regular Americans. In this video, we're going through different clips that show the frustration people are feeling about rising costs, saving money, and trying to survive in today's economy. Because behind all these conversations is a bigger question about why so many people are struggling to afford basic parts of life, even when they're doing everything they were told to do.
Broke trap in your 20s isn't always about how much you make. It's a bunch of stuff hiding in plain sight that ain't nobody flagging for you, and I'm finna name them. Number one, your phone bill, your internet, and your insurance. Never renegotiated. You signed up once and forgot. And believe me when I say companies will count on that. One phone call to each provider can easily knock off 20 to 50%. Nobody's willingly coming and give you your money back. Ask for it. They're gonna try to keep you under the plan anyway. Number two, eating cheap, but eating cheap constantly. $8 here, $12 there, just so nothing feels like a real purchase. And by the end of the week, to be honest, you spent $90 on food that wasn't even good or good for you. And I don't eat out much is exactly what niggas be saying while doing this. Number three, refusing to touch or create a high yield savings account just because A, they don't understand, and B, it sounds too complicated. Your money that you have saved, if you do, is sitting in a regular ass account, gaining nothing while inflation is eating that shit. Moving that money into a high yield takes less than 20 minutes and your money will eat and stack from there on out. It's not complicated, and trust me, I get it. You just never been shown, but I'm showing you. Number four, buying things on payment plans and acting like it's free or something. Afterpay, Klarna, 4 easy payments. Every single one of those is debt without the extra steps. If you can't afford the full price now, you can't afford the 4 payments, gang. You just feel like you can. And the people who gonna come in the comments, oh, I use Afterpay, I do Klarna, da-da-da. Them 4 easy installments that you make in weekly is taken away from where that extra money really should be going to. Number 5, not negotiating your salary or your hourly pay. You just jump to accept the first offer that they give. Just taking the raise that they give you without asking for more. Companies expect you to negotiate, but when you don't take that opportunity, like, yes, because they keeping you stuck. Sometimes they even have that margin built in for you to ask. And the people who get paid more, 9 times out of 10, they not working harder than you. A, they just in a higher role, or B, they simply just asked for higher pay. And if you give good reasoning, how could they say no? And all they can say is no. Ask. Lastly, number 6, having a job with no second skill. One income stream is 1 month away. One income stream is 1 month away from a problem. Building a skill on the side, content, trading, sales, nigga, anything. It's not a hustle. If you build like me, later on, hopefully, God willing, will replace that 9 to 5. Broke is a situation that you stay on when you rely on one source, or if you don't take that one source and do what you're supposed to do with it. The difference between broke and building is really just paying attention, gang, and educating yourself. Save this and pick one just to fix this week. I believe in you, gang. Right.
For a lot of Americans, one of the most frustrating feelings is seeing their paycheck come in and already knowing where almost all of it's gone. Before people can even think about saving or enjoying their money, they have rent, groceries, bills, transportation, and other basic expenses waiting for them. The problem is that these aren't optional purchases that people can just cut out whenever they want. Most people aren't spending money on luxury things every week. They're paying for things that they need to get through normal life. The trip to the grocery store that used to feel manageable can now become something people have to carefully plan around. Even small increases in everyday costs can add up when they happen across everything someone pays for. That's why a lot of people feel like they're working the same amount but somehow getting less out of every paycheck. It creates this feeling that no matter how responsible someone tries to be, they're constantly trying to catch up. For younger Americans especially, it can be confusing because they grow up hearing that working hard will eventually lead to independence and stability. But now many people are reaching adulthood and realizing that even basic goals require way more money than expected. Things like moving out, building savings, or having extra money at the end of the month can feel much further away. And when someone is already using most of their income just to cover necessities, there isn't much room left to make progress. That can make people feel like they're failing financially when they're actually just dealing with a more expensive reality. A lot of people aren't looking for some unrealistic lifestyle where they never have to worry about money. They just want to feel like their work actually gives them some breathing room. Because when every dollar already has a purchase before it even arrives, it becomes extremely difficult to build anything beyond simply surviving. And that's why so many Americans feel stuck. Because the hardest part isn't always earning money, it's having enough left over after life takes its share.
Have you all noticed that grocery store prices have begun to spike again? I was just at Walmart today. My wife and I went shopping there. We spent $189 and we had 3 bags of groceries. 3 bags. One thing in particular that I noticed was kind of odd was that a head of lettuce, just a little head of lettuce in a bag, was $2.68 or $2.69. They had like 2, I can't remember if it was like T-bone steaks or sirloin steaks, 2 steaks, $18. The one thing I noticed that chicken wasn't awful. Chicken was like $1.19 a pound. I think a pack of like chicken legs was like $6 or $7. But cereal is absolutely outrageous. Like $7 for a box of cereal. A container of non-fat or full-fat Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, was like $6. Have you looked at a 12-pack of soda? A 12-pack of soda was like $9 or $10 for soda. I remember when you could get 4 12-packs for $10, but that may have been 20 years ago. But everything in these stores is absolutely outrageous. The clothing at Walmart, the food, the paper products, diapers, snacks, a bag of jerky. Everything is so overpriced. And I'm sorry, but I feel like the prices are going up, not down. Have you noticed that? Tell me what the prices are in the towns you shop.
For many Americans, the hardest part about money isn't earning a paycheck, it's trying to save anything after everything else is already paid. Saving money sounds simple when people talk about it online, but in reality it's much harder when every month brings another expense. A lot of people are told just to cut back, budget better, and stop unnecessary spending, but that advice can feel disconnected when someone's already being careful and still barely has anything left. Building an emergency fund becomes difficult when a single unexpected bill can erase weeks or months of progress. Many people aren't ignoring their future, they're just focused on making it through the present. That constant pressure can make saving feel like a goal that keeps moving further away. Someone can skip eating out, avoid expensive hobbies, and still struggle to create financial security. The reason is because saving requires having extra money in the first place, and for a lot of workers, that extra money has become harder to find. This creates a cycle where people know they should save, but their current expenses keep taking priority. It can be frustrating hearing financial advice that assumes everyone starts from the same position. Not everyone has the same income, responsibilities, or amount of room to adjust their budget. A person can make smart choices and still feel trapped by the numbers in front of them. That doesn't mean saving is impossible, but it explains why so many people feel discouraged when they try. The biggest issue is that many Americans are being asked to plan for the future while struggling to fully handle the present. They aren't ignoring financial responsibility, they're just trying to find a way to create stability in a situation that gives them very little space. And when there's barely any room to breathe, even small financial goals can start to feel overwhelming.
I think the most unintelligent thing that you can say on the conversation of homelessness is that they should just get a job. Did you know 40 to 60% of people experiencing homelessness in America already have one? Crazy concept, employment doesn't equal housing. Sometimes income is just not enough income. The National Low Income Housing Coalition says there's no state, no metro area, no county in America where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford a 2-bedroom, statistically, at like a fair market rent. And in 2025, a full-time worker needed almost $29 an hour to afford a 1-bedroom rental home nationally. So when someone who's working 40 hours a week still can't afford basic apartments, maybe homelessness isn't about getting a job. And I mean, if we think about this toxic landlord-tenant culture, think about what it costs to move into an apartment, right? First month's rent, sometimes last month's rent, security deposit, application fees, there's credit checks, income requirements, deposits for your utilities. If you're already living paycheck to paycheck, where are you supposed to come up with thousands of dollars overnight? That's the trick to the system. They never want you to stop renting. And then people are like, oh, well don't rent, just go buy a house instead. That's becoming harder too. Housing is increasingly becoming an investment instead of just a place to live. People are buying houses to rent them. The Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University said investors purchased nearly 31% of all single-family homes sold in the first quarter of 2025. That's almost 1 in 3 houses being purchased by investors instead of families looking for somewhere to live. That is insane. So whether it's large corporations buying neighborhoods or individual private landlords owning multiple properties, more homes are being purchased as rental investments instead of owner-occupied homes. Every house that is turned into a rental is one less opportunity for someone to become a homeowner. And that's the trick. Years of paying rent makes it harder to save for a down payment. We live in a society where landlords can own 10 houses, but the people working full-time inside those same communities can't afford one. And that's the main critique of capitalism. Renting is supposed to be temporary. Supposed to be. But when rent is eating your paycheck, you never save enough to escape it. Owning a home has actually been one of the main ways families build wealth in America. But when you own a home, the money that you are spending every month can turn into something you actually own. But when you're renting forever, your money is only building your landlord's wealth instead of yours. And honestly, we can just look back in history and it proves my point. We know that withholding home ownership affects people's poverty levels. Black families, for decades, they were legally and financially shut out of buying homes in certain neighborhoods. Redlining. Redlining was when banks and governments marked black neighborhoods as risky, which made it impossible for black families to get home loans. So black families weren't just denied houses, they were essentially just denied the chance to build any wealth or pass property down to their kids, escape poverty. That's the reason, one of the reasons, that racial wealth gap still exists today. Today's housing crisis is not the same thing as redlining, but the lesson's absolutely the same. When people are locked out of home ownership, they're locked out of one of the biggest ways that families build stability and wealth and get out of poverty in this country. On top of that, if you didn't know, cities have zoning laws that make it illegal or difficult to build the kind of housing that's actually affordable. So there's restrictions on like building duplexes, triplexes, courtyard apartments, like higher density housing. So on top of all of this, when you're limiting the amount of housing that can be built while the demand keeps growing and homelessness is increasing, the prices are going up. And I think also our distortion, like our distorted image of homelessness is part of the problem. When people hear the word homelessness, they picture someone sitting on a sidewalk asking for change. Nobody's picturing the woman who's sleeping in her car before heading to work, or the guy who has to shower at Planet Fitness before his shift, right? Nobody's thinking about the families that are rotating between all of their relatives' different couches so that they can clock in every single morning and have someone to watch the kids. So the next time someone says, well, why don't homeless people get a job? 40 to 60% of them already do. The problem's not unemployment. Sometimes it's that having a job is no longer enough to guarantee a place to live. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as it's supposed to, and it's not working for us. Okay?
One of the most frustrating parts for many Americans is feeling like they're being blamed for problems they did not create. When someone says they're struggling, there's often a quick response telling them they just need to work harder, spend less, or make better choices. And while personal responsibility does matter, those answers don't always explain why so many people are working hard and still feel stuck. A lot of people are putting in long hours, showing up every day, and trying to manage their money carefully. The reality is that the cost of many basic goals has changed compared to previous generations. Things like buying a home, running a loan, or building savings can require much more money than people expected. That creates a frustrating situation where people are following the advice they were given, but aren't seeing the results they were promised. Many younger Americans grew up hearing that if they got an education, found a job, and worked consistently, they would eventually build a comfortable life. But now a lot of people are realizing that the path to stability is not as straightforward as it used to seem. This doesn't mean that people don't want to improve their situation or that effort doesn't matter. It means people are noticing that hard work alone doesn't always overcome every financial obstacle. When someone is struggling to afford basic things, being told they're simply irresponsible can feel like they aren't being understood, because most people aren't asking for an easy life where they never have to sacrifice anything. They're asking why the basic things they were told to work towards feel so much harder to reach. They want to be able to afford groceries without stressing, handle emergencies without panic, and have confidence about the future. They want their effort to actually translate into progress instead of keeping them in the same place. And that's why this conversation matters, because behind every number about prices and expenses are real people trying to build a normal life. A lot of Americans aren't looking for someone to solve every problem for them. They just want their struggles to be recognized instead of dismissed. Because before people can find solutions, they have to admit that many hardworking people are facing a reality that feels much different than what we were prepared for. The biggest issue is that being constantly told the problem is your own fault can make people feel like giving up on trying to improve. Many people are still working towards better opportunities, but they're doing it while carrying more financial pressure than they expected. Understanding that reality doesn't remove responsibility from individuals, it simply recognizes that the environment people are trying to succeed in has changed. At the end of the day, most struggling Americans aren't asking for sympathy or an excuse. They're asking for a fair understanding of why achieving basic financial stability feels so much harder than it used to.